Okay, welcome back. So now we're going to continue. And I mentioned we were picking up at the return step. There's no fighters in the return spaces. So we skip that, and now we go to the escort step. So once again, we are in a situation where there's just one pile of escorts. I rolled a 7. This time they go to the flank level, 2 to 4 o'clock. So just the top one is going to show up here. And of course, he doesn't intercept anybody. So he just sits there. And the exact order, by the way, is they move on here first, and then we do this. So they're not going to come on here and then move. So unless you get the really bad luck like we had where they landed right on top of us, usually they don't intercept you right away. You just got to be careful because now that they're there, I can't move on either side of him or he'll be able to intercept me. And that's something that could be a real problem, right? So I definitely, I don't want that happening. So I need to make sure I factor all that in as I'm, moving around and doing whatever. So then we go to recovery. There is no recovery yet. Blast and flak, nothing. Cohesion, there's still only one marker on the board. So no need to roll, and now we're going to do our attack. Okay, so these rules, by the way, are unchanged from Storm or Skies. They're both the same. So for the attack, I want to get the swarm advantage, which means I need to have 4 determined fighters that are all the same type and from the same approach box, and that is here. And the approach box just means they need to be here. So I can split them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, no problem, okay? The other thing I can do is if I want to get the Rada advantage, which is this one, I need a space with 2 or more fighters. And I can only get this once. I know there's 3 of these here. That doesn't mean that, like, if I do this and this, I don't get 2 of them. The reason there's 3 of them is because you can earn another one if you do multiple waves. So, for this wave, you can only earn 1 of each. So I could just, double up on 1 of these and then do something like that. And I could still get the Rada advantage. And then these 2 would qualify for it. And then, of course, the position advantage I don't get because I don't have fighters that are at different levels, altitude levels. Now, how would I represent altitude levels? They're all low, so they would look exactly like that. If they were at middle level, or if they were at level, I would do that. And if they were high, it would look like that. And so they're all low, so they look like that. So I can get this if I combine these 2 together, and I'm definitely getting that one. So the problem with combining them together is, remember, we have to do a collision check. But you know what? Since this is a teaching game, let's go through the rules. And chances are I'm going to show you why you don't want to do this. But we'll try it. Okay, so I have these 2 advantages. I'm just setting them off to the side. And let's go through the steps of this a little slower. So when you see that there's, we're doing the attack phase, there's a whole sheet that explains it. So we shift the fighters from approach to their formation, and then we have to mark them if they're out of the sun. There's no out of the sun, so no worries there. I already did the formation, and right here it's explaining you can have up to 6 at a time. That's considered a wave. Use altitude blocks, blah, blah, blah. Then we have to select the mode. In order to get this advantage, or even that one, they have to all be determined. So I'm choosing determined. And remember, that's this side up. If they were evasive, I would switch it over to that side. So the side that you place them matters. So they're all determined. Then we're going to do a collision check. So the collision check, there's more detail on this one. There's a whole collision check section here, and it's triggered by placing 2 or more fighters in the same space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw one of these tokens, And what I want is it to say no collision. Okay, that's what I want. This is not a common one. This is what I'm talking about. I did not make a smart move here. The escape one is I can pay the TP cost that's listed here. And remember, I only have 3. And then the fighter will break away to the tail. If it does, I no longer get my swarm. Technically speaking, I haven't earned these yet. So these stay on the board. I only earn these during the burst phase. And here's why that's important. I got to do this collision check, and the collision check causes one of these 2 fighters to break away. It's no longer in the element anymore. I only have 3. So I don't get the swarm anymore. And I don't get the rata anymore because I don't have a space with 2 or more fighters because the collision check caused 1 to go away. So you see how awful this can be? I'm just getting warmed up. So you have to pay the TP cost in order to break away. If you do not pay, then you exit the mission, which is even worse. Then there's veer. If you're in evasive mode, you don't have to do anything. If it's determined, you roll a die. If the number rolled is less than the number of fighters in the element, then you get hit. If it's equal to or higher, all the fighters in the space break away and are no longer there. And then, of course, this is when you can just flat out get hit. Unless you're in invasive mode, you get to ignore it. Otherwise, you're going to flip the proximity marker and attach it to the fighter as it's hit. And then this last one is an impact. Again, if you're in invasive mode, you can ignore it. If you're in determined mode, you immediately roll die. If the number is less than the number printed, a collision occurs. And then we have to deal with a collision. The only thing that's advantageous is since we're in determined mode, whatever we draw, okay, will go towards the cohesion of the bomber. Because, you know, all this action of planes almost crashing into each other is going to cause the bombers to fall a little bit out of cohesion and possibly fall out of formation. So that's what all of this check is about. So this is the cup you need to use. And we're going to go ahead and draw one. Oh, and I have to pick who it's going to be. So is it going to be Zweigert or who's the other one? Oblisser. I'm going to choose Oblisser. Is going to get whatever happens here. So this we don't do yet. There it is. E. So he has to pay 1 TP or he's going to have to exit. So I'm going to pay a TP. And that just blows chunks beyond anything I can describe. So I pay a TP, it goes down to 2. And then what happens is this guy goes into the return box. And he's no longer there. So now I don't have 2 fighters in the same space. I don't have 4 in the same element. I don't get any of these advantages. That's what stinks about that situation. Exactly what I said was going to happen happened. And we lost a TP to boot. So this mission is not going well for us at all. If these 3 fighters were still alive, we would none of this would have happened. Because what would have happened was I would have put 2 fighters here, and one of them would have been from here, and he would have been in evasive mode, which would not have saved him from the from this symbol, right? This doesn't, you know, get saved by an evasive, but I could have chose the evasive guy to go there, and I still would have gotten the swarm. I may not have gotten 2 in the same space, but I would have gotten a swarm. So just by losing these guys over here, that affected everything else. So, all right, I'm not very positive we're going to get much going here. And you can see right here, we select our maneuvers, and then we get advantage right here. So you got to do the collision check first, and then check for advantage. So my little thing here where I thought I was going to get these tokens, that doesn't happen until after the collision check. So big mistake there. And in fact, when I was saying I was watching my old videos from 2 years ago, I'm not sure I got that right 2 years ago. So that's why all the more reason why we need to do a new one now. Okay. So now we got to do our maneuvers. So what does maneuvers mean? Well, they're all coming in this way, right? And so we have to choose where they're going to go. And I'm going to head to the tail. So I'm either diving to the tail or I'm climbing. And so I'm going to choose, and what you can do is you can also roll, right? So I can say, okay, I'm going to roll this way, or I'm going to roll that way. And then it's a dive roll, or it's a climb roll, okay? So I can climb this way or I can climb that way. It's your choice. The world's your oyster. Now, the thing is whatever you decide to do could, there's a card you have to draw called continuing fire, and that could negatively impact you. And if you're trying to get too fancy, it can burn you. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a climb for all three of them. I'm basically going straight through, and I'm going to head to the tail. And I'm going to try to get high altitude from the tail. So all three of them are coming in, and actually, you know what? I'm going to dive because I want to meet up with Zweigert again. I don't want to... if we meet up with Zweigert again, we can possibly get a swarm going. Fine, we'll do dives. Okay, so all three are going to dive. And that decision right there could take you an hour because you can get into analysis paralysis on what's the best thing to do. The one thing I don't recommend is we don't want to go that way because that's where the Escort is, right? We definitely don't want to go that way. All right, next, we finally get to do the attack. We're in what's called the burst phase. So we're going to draw an attack card, and then we're going to do whatever it says. And there's a lot of things that it could say. There's possibility for collision checks, and that would be a collision with the bomber. Remember, I said that this token stays on. For cohesion check purposes, this now counts as a second token. So now there's two tokens here. So if I rolled a 1, the whole cohesion of the bombers would actually go down. But we're not done. We're hoping to add some more carnage to them. And so I get to pick who's going to go first. So I'm going to pick Oblisser here. He's going to go first. And we're going to attack this guy. Now, remember, I'm coming in at this angle. So he can't attack here. Well, actually, he can, can't he? I think he can. So since we're in this location, I think I can attack this one or this one. Let me make sure. I totally forgot that particular aspect of the rules. Okay, so you only attack what's in front of you. So, for example, this guy's coming from the nose, so he can only attack the nose. He can't, be attacking this way. I guess it makes sense now that I think about it, but that was a good thing to look up. Okay, so we're going to start with this guy out here, Oblisser, and of course he's attacking this bomber here. And so the way you resolve that is you draw a nose card. And there's a lot of things going on here, but the first thing we got to do is always verify that it says nose, because you could have your card shuffled into the wrong way. What's our altitude? We're coming in low, so we come down to here. Determined is the brown row, the evasive is the blue, so we're in the determined row. And these symbols here mean we're getting hit. So you can see no matter what, we're getting hit. And then like which column we use is the threat level. So the threat level for this guy is 1. It's written right here on the board. I know it's a little blurry for you, but we're in threat level 1, low. So this is what happens. So we take 1 hit. We're going to progress 1 space, and then the bomber takes 1 hit. And Oblisser is he's not an expert, so he will take that hit. Now, if I would have had this Rada advantage, I could have used this to cancel the hit, which you see how this is just cascading into disaster. But we just took a hit. And then because we took a hit, my little plan of getting Schwarm is ruined as well. So I didn't even think about this part. Okay, so one hit on us. And so this is the hit. And you don't do anything with this at the moment. This is handled in the recovery phase, but you put that on top of your fighter. Okay, and then we progress 1, so we can do that now. This goes 1 straight through because we chose our direction, right? We're going this way. If I was rolling, I would move 1 that way, or if I was rolling this way, I would have moved 1 over to here. I'm going towards the tail, so I progress from here to there. That's what that 1 means. And then this means that the bomber also takes a hit. So I'm going to go ahead and discard this card. And we got to draw a hit for the bomber. Oops, I grabbed the wrong cup. Okay, so the bomber has this hit on him, and these catastrophic checks always occur right away. So I'm going to roll. I got an 8, which is a nice number, but I needed a 10. So the wing on this bomber got hit, and it's 1 damage. And that goes on the bomber, and now you can see for the cohesion check, there's 3 markers. So the cohesion is constantly getting rattled from what we're doing here. And then we now do continuing fire. And so we got to do Skies Above the Reich continuing fire, which is going to be different from the FW190 continuing fire. And so you want to make sure you're grabbing this card right here that says Skies for BF109s. So we now have to do the continuing fire portion. And what it's saying is this is determined. This is evasive. We were determined the threat level of our new location that we're at, right? That's this location. The threat level is 2. So we have to deal with this column, not that one, because we moved from a threat level of 1 into a threat level of 2. So we're taking another hit. And then there's friendly fire. Roll a die. If even, place a damage marker on the nearest bomber. If odd, skip. Continuing fire and break away now. Oh. Okay, so this is interesting. If we roll an even, the bomber takes another hit. But if they take another hit, so do we, right? If we roll an odd, the bomber won't take a hit, but neither do we because we break away. That's an interesting one. All right, so I rolled odd. So that means we break away now. So we won't take another hit. That's sort of good, but we already took a hit, so I would rather have damaged the bomber. And so what's going to happen is we're going to end up in the return zone with the damage marker on like that. And the bomber doesn't take any more hits, and neither do we. Okay, so let's move to the next one. And you get to choose the order you're doing these. So if I could somehow like take out this bomber, it actually causes a negative effect on all the threat zones around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with this one. And we're going to try to pick on this guy now. So this is Schmidt, and I'm going to look at his skills. He has the quick skill. And that means that he can switch to evasive anytime he wants. And you'll see where he's going to use that skill in a second. And so everything's set up. So now we've got to do another nose attack. So the threat level is 2 for this one. And we are low. And you can see with 2, here there is no hits on either side. And here only we get hit. So his quick skill means that he could switch. Right now he's determined. He could switch to evasive if he wanted, which would be really dumb. So we don't want to do that. We want to stay here. But like, let's say, I don't know, if it was this situation, right? Here he's taking a hit and he's giving a hit. He could have switched to this side and then just gave out a hit. and not taken any. That's what the quick skill allows him to do. He could just switch to the other one. It's okay. I'm not sure how thrilled I am with that, but he did basically nothing. So all he does is pass through, and the part that now blows is he has to do a continuing fire, and that's also a 2-threat area. So if he was dive rolling, he would have to do this event, okay? But he's not dive rolling. So we go to the 2 here, and here he's gonna take a hit. So he could use his quick skill and move down to here, and I will to avoid the hit. So just trying to find my pen. So for, this is Zweigert, I think. No, Schmidt. So what I do is for Schmidt, I put M1 for Mission 1, and then I'm going to do Q. And that means I used my, my quick skill. So this is a reminder. So if later in the same mission, I'm thinking I still have it, it's just letting me know I burned up my skill. I don't get to use it twice, just once per mission. And I did that to avoid getting hit, okay? Now, what's the drawback to that? Well, the drawback to that is I now have to do evasive return, which means I'm all the way down here. It's going to take me 2 turns before I even get back in the action, which is fine because this is going to delay me a turn as well, that thing. All right, so now we got this last one. We aren't doing very well, folks. We're coming in nose, low, threat level of 2, and there. We're going to take a hit. What's his skill? This is Buttfargen. He has aim. Oh, this sucks. Okay, so we just take a hit. Nothing I can do. I wish I had the luck skill right now. All right, so he's getting hit on the wing, and this 9 is awful. That means there's a real hard chance of him surviving this. And, oh, we got to do continuing. Got a pass through still. So the pass through is a 1. So he actually moves to here, which is no worse in the threat department. So threat level of 2 determined. He's taking another hit. And there's nothing he can do about that either. One thing I will tell you is once you're hit, you know, unless he gets a miracle roll on that last one, the multiple hits don't seem to make a difference. But anyways, he got hit twice, and yes, he returns to there. Okay, so that was the end of the attack phase. So now we go to mission turn 3, and it goes up to 10, right? So we got all these mission turns left to do nothing. So starting off with the move phase, there's no pilots to move. When you move, you don't move anything that's in the return area. That's not eligible for moving. So there's nothing to move. Then we have the return step. So within the return step, this guy moves up to the low box, and this one will move up to here. These two have damage markers on them, so they don't get to move at all. They're ineligible, even in the return step. So they just stay right where they are. Okay, next is the escort step. So we still have to do that. This escort over here is going to stay where he is. He does not move. So first, an escort marker on the formation automatically moves into the fighter's box. Then if one of our escorts, yeah. So he stays where he is. And then over here, we roll. I rolled an 8. So now this goes to above trailing, and we are in big trouble now. Okay. So next time we do escorts, both of these are going to roll. All right. Definitely not looking good for the home team. All right, next is recovery. So we start with our fighters here. Let's start with this one. if I roll, is it equal or higher? I'm going to check real quick. So for each hit marker, roll a die. If it's equal to or greater than, then there's no effect. If it's less than, then you're in big trouble. Okay, so we want equal or greater. So he has a 5 on him. So there's a better chance that we're going to survive this. And I rolled a 5. Just on the hair of my chinny chin chin. So this you just throw back in the box. There's no other effect. The fighter was able to shake it off. So now this one, he has 2 of them. And you can choose to do them in any order. Okay, so I don't know, there's several strategies here. The first one is, I could possibly get rid of this. But then I still have to do that check. And this one is like a really difficult check to pass. I mean, you need a 9 or a 10. Otherwise, you're out. So I'm going to go ahead and do the difficult one first. I need a 9 or a 10. And I rolled a 5. So this one you can just throw away. Put it back in the cup. This one, though, also goes back in the cup. But you got to make note that it's a wing. And so what happens is, well, these markers are gone. What happens is that Buttfargen has wing damage, so he leaves the mission completely, and now he's over here on the fate box. And at the end of the mission, we're going to roll to see if he gets destroyed or killed. All kinds of nasty things can happen to him, so he could be completely out of this mission very fast. And all we have left are 3 guys. So that's the recovery phase, then blast and flak, and then cohesion. So there's 3 markers out here now, so we're going to go ahead and do cohesion. I rolled a 4, and nothing happens. This marker, I believe, goes away. Let me check real quick. Okay, so any proximity markers and explosion markers or detonation markers, which don't exist yet, those are only temporary. So yeah, the formation stays intact, and this is going to go away. It goes back in the cup. Okay, so we're back to square one there, and I realized I just threw something in the wrong cup, so bear with me. So I can get that fixed. Okay. It's not looking good. Now, there is no attack because nobody went into attack, so now we're moved up to turn 4. So what do we want to do? Right now we have we're in the move phase, so this fighter could attack, but on his own from the tail. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and move up to level, and that costs 0 TP to do. One thing you can see, you can go to the nose or to the flank, but it costs TP. And let me show it over here. This is a little bit easier for you to read. If you were low on the flank, you can go to any tail, including the high tail, for 0. So you can come in low and then just swing around and go high on the other end pretty easily. So there's some maneuvers you can do to cut some corners, like if you want to get to a certain place. But that's all I can do for my move. And then we go to the return phase, and these 2 are going to move up to there. So now we're finally, able to do approach or something like that different. Now, the problem is in order to get this position, I have to be at more than one altitude, which those are, but I have to be at more than one position, which they're not. So that's a big problem. I could get a space with 2 or more fighters, but I have to do a collision check again. So my chances of getting these attack advantages are running pretty low. We do have to do a cohesion check. And unless I rolled a 1, there's nothing going to happen. And we move up to mission turn 5. Okay, so do I want to just go and attack? My answer is yeah, I think I do. The thing is do I want to do another collision check is the question. Sure, let's go for it. So these two are going to attack low, and this one's going to attack level. And there is no return. Oh, hold on. Last round, I needed to do the escort. So we were here. I needed to do the escort step. My apologies. So which one do we do first? I don't think it matters. So we'll do this one first. I rolled a 7, so he's going to flank 2 to 4 o'clock. So he is now on the same location as the other one. So what happens in that situation is one of them will return. They'll leave because they won't bunch up like that. The unfortunate part is that's written in the rules somewhere and not on the player aid. So that part sort of stinks. But I'm pretty sure yeah, let me make sure. Okay, I explained it perfectly. The timing on when they leave is going to be at the end of the escort phase, and they will go back to below trailing. So he'll end up in that stack. All right, so now we're going to roll for this one. I rolled an 8, and so here he goes to the box with the most fighters. So this is just ruining our day even more. Oh my gosh. So he goes to that box right there. And that's what happens when they go to above trailing. We're toast. So we're going to resolve this aerial combat first. And then I already had moved to turn 5. Remember, I was going to attack. Look at this. I'm not going to be attacking anymore. So these two guys that are here, they're going, one of them is peeling off because there's no point in two of them being in the same location. So he's going to go back to there. I'm getting one step ahead of myself. We're supposed to resolve this first, but it doesn't matter. The turn order there. So let's go ahead and take care of that aerial combat. Okay, so these aren't FW-190s, they're BF-109s. I'm up against Spitfires, so we're here. And they have altitude advantage over us because they're coming in from above trailing, so we don't stand a chance. So they got altitude advantage no matter what we do. And the only thing we have to look at left is, you can see there's 3 of them and there's only 2 of us. So they have numerical advantage as well. So we got the worst possible table. And so that means we have a no and a no. So we're going to use the bottom row here. So the best outcome is that we break away. So no matter what, we're out of the battle. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and roll. I rolled a 9, which is a good roll. So you can see here we're going to break away. And that's exactly what happened. So this escort stays, and then we're going to break away, which means we're out of the mission. So nothing left to do. Oh, and then one escort marker exits. So sorry about that. So this escort goes away, actually, and he's no longer in the battle. All right, so now we got just one of us left. Like I said, now we're on turn 5. And yes, we will attack all by ourselves. Swigert is the only guy left. Our only hope is to destroy a bomber. If one falls away and we pursue it, that's the only one we're going to be able to go after. Swigert does have the breakaway skill, which is a decent skill. But anyways, so we're going to come in and from the rear and attack something. The best rear attack is here because you can see the threat level is only 1, but he's an undamaged bomber. So I think what I want to do is let's just go after this one. Even though the threat level is 2, it's still our best shot because we have 1 there. Although this elevator damage guy is very close to being destroyed. Yeah, let's do that one since that's also a threat level of 2. We're gonna go after the elevator damage guy. Because if I can get 1 more elevator damage on him, then I know I'm gonna get a victory point. Or I think I will. There's all kinds of problems that can happen here still. So yeah, we move through, but we got to do cohesion check before we do attacks. So, and then we also have to do escort phase before we continue. So let me put this guy back. We're in the approach box. So escort happens first. So here we go. I rolled a 7. This one's going to go to flank to 4 o'clock, which is over there. So he's going to go there. And since there's 2 of them in the same spot, he's coming back. So I'm just doing all that for now. So that part's over. Now we're going to do a cohesion check here. And if the cohesion would have gone down, then this threat level would have changed. And so that's the reason why we got to do all these steps before we do the attack. So the approach doesn't occur until here. So that's what we're doing right now. So now I'm going to do approach there. I'm going to try to attack this guy with a threat level of 2. And I'm coming in from the tail, so I need to draw a different card, a tail card. And so the tail, we came in level, didn't we? So that means I need to put this under to show that I'm at level altitude. So we're at level with a 2. And I said I was determined. I didn't make it evasive. And you can see I'm going to take 2 hits, but I'm going to do 1 hit to him. So that's pretty brutal. And there's nothing I can do to mitigate those hits. If I would have gone evasive, I still would have gotten hit. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 damage and do 1 to him. So let's draw the 2 damage for us. So I have a fuselage and a cockpit hit, which is not good. And then let's do the 1 hit on him. And if you'll notice, since we're coming in from the tail, there's no numbers because we're velocity matching, and so we're not moving through. And so the tail attack card is going to be structured a lot differently. All right. So let's do the hit on him. And this should be flipped over. Okay, so, there's an engine attack. That's not bad. Okay, you may want to count that, but I'll roll again. Oh, come on. I didn't get a 5. So let's go ahead and flip this over. So now there's an engine hit on him, which does 0 damage, by the way. But now it's a 3rd marker towards cohesion. And that does stay on permanently, at least for as long as that plane's there. And then we have to do the continuing. So I can do continuing fire, or I can just choose to break away, which is the skill that Zweigert has. He has the breakaway skill. And I've never used the breakaway skill. I really think it's crappy. But let me look it up. The breakaway skill says, instead of passing through, the fighter may immediately break away to any return or evasive return box, regardless of his mode that he was in, and maneuver marker. Do this before drawing a continuing fire card. So what I could have done was I could have been evasive and then taken less hits and then use my breakaway skill to still return as if I was determined. That's interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and just do continuing fire. I'm not going to use it yet. I am at a threat level of 2. I was supposed to decide, like, what am I doing? Am I rolling this way, that way, or going straight? I am climbing. I'm just going to climb straight because I don't want to go to these flanks because they're all problems. I was supposed to have mentioned that before, but this is where it really matters. So again, got to make sure you're drawing the skies card. And here we go. So I'm not diving or dive rolling. So if dive or dive bombing an escort marker is in the below trailing station, it attacks the fighter. Oh gosh, we would have been definitely attacked. That's that guy right there. So good thing I'm not diving. And the threat level was 2, so nothing happens to me. So this was actually a really good card. So I'm gonna go ahead and escape, which takes this one off. And he's gonna end up in the nose return, and that ends the round. So now we're on mission turn 6. Okay, the move step, nothing happens. The return step, nothing happens, and now we got to do escort. So I'm going to roll a 9. So this one's going to move to above trailing, which is bad for us. And then we do recovery. So here's our 2 recovery markers. We have an 8 and a 4. Which one do we want to do first? Let's do the 8. I rolled a 1. Yeah, we're not escaping that. So we can toss the 4 back in the cup. We can toss the 8 back in the cup, but it's a cockpit hit. So Zweigert gets hit in the cockpit. So he's going there, and there's no point in continuing the mission. We are completely out of fighters, and even if the cohesion of this drops, it's not going to kill anything for us. The best that can happen is something's going to fall away. But there's no fighters left to even harass them, so they're safely flying home. So this was an awful, awful first mission. I'm not sure how much I actually like being able to position my guys on the board without doing that whole setup pre-game thing. I don't really care for those rules, the vectoring. But the rest of this was just the escorts screwed us. That's what happens when you have escorts that are persistent like that. You don't want them on the map because they do ruin your day. It's really hard to avoid those escorts. No victory points at all. No experience points for the staff or the pilots, other than the few that they got from fighting the escorts. That was dismal. I cannot think of, I mean, I guess there's worse outcomes, but that was bad. All right, and we're not done, folks. We got to get over here, and 2 of our pilots might be dead. So I'm just resetting all my tokens over here. So I don't know, which one do we want to do first? Let's do Buttfargen. He's a BF 109, which means we're going to use this column right here. And I think that in all cases, a higher die roll is always better than lower. And so you can see he can land, he can crash, could be put on fire, or he can explode. So let's see what happens. Oh my gosh, he is on fire. So now, or no, I rolled a 2. He explodes. So now we got to see, is he going to survive? 1 to 7, he dies. An 8 to a 9, he's wounded. And on a 10, he survives. That's the only way he survives is a 10. Oh my gosh. And I rolled a 3. Buttfargen is dead. So that's my son's favorite pilot for all the shallow reasons. And so we already have a dead pilot. And that means we lost an expert pilot already. So Buttfargen is gone. Now, we get to replace him once with another pilot that begins with a P, so we can, Peter. So we got Peter, we're talking about the Buttfargen on one side, and it was a Peter on the other. Okay, so he has no skills anymore. And in fact, he's green. So instead of the star, he now has the G. And so we're going to draw a green token. Where are those green tokens? Oh, here they are. Okay, so this is annoying. One of them is from the expansion and one of them is not. Can you tell by the colors? I actually forgot which one's which. Like, is the later color the new ones? But I have another cup. I'm just going to go throw these in a cup so I don't have to try to analysis paralysis these. And let's grab this one, which is panic. That does not sound good. All right, so he's got panic. That actually sounds awful. So what does panic do? Looks like panic's from the original game. When hit, the fighter immediately exits. Perform recovery immediately. Okay, so if he ever gets hit, he just exits the game. All right. And I need 3 experience points before I can get rid of that. But that goes over here, panic. All right, well. And I'm not done. We got more cash and prizes over here. So this guy is a BF109. And again, we have this chart. And this time I rolled an 8, which is pretty high. He crashes though. So it goes to here and then that goes here. So 1 to 4, he dies. 5 to 8, he's wounded. 9 or 10, he's better. I'm just reading the top text up here. If you do land or bail out, you earn an experience point. Wounded pilots also get 1. And there it is, a 3. So Zwigert also dies. So we've already got 2 killed pilots. Oh my gosh. So I got to come up with a name that begins with Z. We'll call him Zach. And so Zwigert's gone. And we lost that skill. And we have another green pilot coming along. Erratic. Also an original game one. So what does erratic do? They all stink, by the way. There's nothing erratic. When performing breakaway, spend 1 TP. If you can't spend a TP or choose not to spend it, the fighter immediately exits. All right. Okay, so 2 pilots are dead. We do have to check something before we move to mission 2. And that check we need to do is the back of the rule book, I believe. Where the heck is it? For long campaigns and whatnot, there's victory conditions that you have to meet. And I'm just trying to figure out where that is. I know it's listed somewhere. Okay, let me pause until I find it. I found it immediately after I paused. It's on the back of the situation manual. So if you look at the very end, this is our goal. So we're playing, first of all, here's your victory points, right? For advanced game versus basic. In the 1942 season, we need to have victory points by the end of the season to win just the season, not to win the game. To win the game, that depends on what kind of campaign you're doing. And we're doing a long campaign, or a full. So you can see here, for a full campaign, we must begin 1942, play one season after the next until we win 4 of them. However, if you lose a season, you lose the campaign. It's also possible to lose due to other reasons. When you commence a new season, victory points start at 0, but EPs continue. So basically the EPs roll over from one season to the next. The decisive victory is if you earn twice the number of victory points required, the win is considered decisive. It means you really made an impact. If you're in a medium campaign, one decisive win grants you a sudden death victory. Game over. If playing full campaign, each decisive win counts as 2 season wins. Okay, so what does all that mean? Well, if we come back over here, if I somehow get 30 victory points, I need to get 4 season wins. So if I win this season, 2, 3, 4, I could win by 1943 late. Okay? If I get 30 victory points, this counts as 2 wins. And if I get 40 victory points here, that counts as 2 wins. I could win by the end of 1943 early. That would be like a perfect game to be able to do that. Now, what it's also saying, though, is if I don't score 5 victory points by the end of the season, I lose the whole campaign. So I have to at least score 5, minimum. I have to score 15 to be considered a win. I have to score 5 to not lose. Okay? So basically, if I get between 5 and 15, the whole thing is a wash, and the season is neither a win or a loss. Okay? And then, of course, the minimum goes up a bit as we go down. But there's also this other thing, and that's what I was worried about. If 6 of my pilots die, I lose. I just lost 2 of my pilots. So I'm already 2 towards the 6. Now, the pilot minimum is 16. I was able to replace my pilots for free. That's not an issue. So I'm still at 18 total pilots. But if I ever lose my green pilots that I replaced, you can't replace your replacements. So eventually, the pilot minimum could go down. Also, if a pilot is wounded, they're not available for the mission. That affects your pilot minimum as well. You immediately lose the campaign if you can't maintain the loss limit in the pilot minimum. And they have to be available to fly. So if they're wounded, they're not available to fly. And it explains it right here. Available to fly means not killed and not in the wounded box. So 16 is really hard because we have 18 total. So if my 2 pilots, instead of them dying, if they were both wounded, I would be right at the cusp of this. And I would actually lose the game if one more pilot got wounded. So I don't have to worry. I'm still at 18 here, but I'm down to 2 out of the 6 here. And even worse, I'm sitting at 0 victory points after 1 mission. How many missions are there, you might be wondering? It actually says it on the sheet of paper. So for 1942, we have 6 missions. I have 5 more missions to get a better score than that crappy outcome. So where are we at? We're at 53 minutes. I'm going to call that a wrap, and we will do mission 2 in the next video.